Smith had asked how long it would take for her broken ribs to mend, according to the doctors. She said she'd been told about 6 weeks, as long as she was careful. Smith didn't go as far as shaking his head, but there was a dubious sort of look on his face, and so she had to ask. He said, "It must be getting on for 30 years ago, not long after I joined Lake Central. There was a bit of a hoo-ha one Saturday night, and I ended up with that injury. I don't think they used to give us 6 weeks off in those days. But anyway, the point is, I still get a twinge there if I sleep on it wrongly. First thing in the morning, I can still tell exactly where it cracked. I'm not sure they ever heal completely." Serena Butler stared back at him, and then Smith realized Jo had on her face an expression identical to the one on the face of his former detective constable, an expression which seemed to be saying, "Really? You have to say that right now?" He said, "Nobody's mentioned that. Perhaps mostly they do mend. My case is probably quite exceptional." Jo looked at Serena and said, "No surprises there, then?" And both women shared a smile, and some sort of private joke, by the look of it. Smith decided to move the conversation along, and asked their visitor how much longer she would have to stay at home and rest. She said, "Only 1 more week, thank God. They've said I can go into the office before the 6 weeks is up. Denise has said she'll arrange a special chair for me. I don't know if that involves some sort of a wind-up. I wouldn't be surprised if it does." She looked as if she was longing to be back there as the target of some good-natured banter and clowning around. He remembered it, of course, the laughter and the dark humour which comes from sharing with like-minded people the sometimes awful work one has to do. He remembered it, and sometimes he missed it still. After all, the word nostalgia only means the pain of longing for home. Layla had taken up her usual position when they had a guest, lying close to Serena's feet. This dog was particularly fond of female visitors, and Smith had decided he was probably the only man in her life. When Jo stood up, so did Layla's ears, as if she knew what was coming next. Jo said, "Well, I'll take her for a walk along the bank and leave you two alone." There were protests from Serena, but to no avail. Hadn't she already told them she was supposed to be resting? And anyway, didn't they all know the real reason for her visit? That she needed to talk to her old detective sergeant about what had happened to her just a couple of weeks ago. Jo understood that was a conversation which could only take place between the two of them.